Markiplier, known for his roles in famous videos such as Five Nights at Freddy's the Musical, Ninja Sex Party's Cool Patrol music video, and Wilfred Mud Lovin' Wharf Stash, has finally released his directorial debut, Iron Lung. It was aight. In all seriousness though, Iron Lung is probably the second best movie I've ever seen from an internet celebrity. The first being Smosh the Movie, coincidentally also having Markiplier.
I don't have a full grasp on human speech, but I can operate a gas-powered chainsaw.
Iron Lung definitely has to be a milestone in cinema. It's probably the first movie I've ever seen in my lifetime to be fully independently funded and make like 9 times its original budget. Take that, Filippo brothers. Talk to Me couldn't even accomplish that. They had to get produced by the guys that made Y2K.
Fine. Die with these losers.
That being said, Iron Lung definitely isn't without its faults. There's definitely a few rough edges that could be smooth, but for a first directional debut, it's not a bad start. So I wanted to make this video so that, one, I could finally upload to this channel that's been dead for years, and for another more sadder reason, but I'll get into that at the end of this video. We'll be talking about the good, the bad, and how it compares to the original game. I'm gonna try and dance around spoilers to respect Mark's requests, so good luck featuring me with editing this. Without further ado, let's talk about Iron Lung. The atmosphere of this movie is great. The score by Andrew Holschel and sound design by Brad Engelking, sorry if I said your guys' name wrong by the way, really sets the tone for the movie almost immediately. Not to mention the set design. I'll get into it later, but they really nailed the setting of the game. The movie starts pretty slow in the first act, but I feel like it's necessary in this case to really get you immersed in the environment that Mark's character Simon is stuck in. Mark's acting is also fairly solid for this movie. While there were times where I kind of found it a little hard to separate Simon from Markiplier, I still mostly was invested in his character arc. To be fair, he probably had to play this game multiple times just to get the mood right. I think it's safe to say that he just lost his mind midway through and is actually method acting throughout the whole movie. There's also some great practical effects in this movie. We already know about the gallons upon gallons of fake blood that were used for this movie that outbeat 2013's Evil Dead's use of it. Looking back on it now, it definitely makes sense why Mark was hospitalized while filming this movie. And without getting too much into it, there's a scene near the end where Mark goes full meat cannon, and I thought it looked pretty good. Anna Fugate Downs and Imani Corbani, again, sorry if I said your names wrong, were really cooking with this one. And to give another compliment to sound design, because if you played the game, you know that was probably the best part about the game, was knowing that there was probably something outside of your submarine watching you the entire time. Also, Mark takes his shirt off, and I immediately thought of all those Markiplier thirst traps that my friend used to send me, so, you know, 10 out of 10 movie automatically for that one.
Try not to faint from looking at my evil, awesome body.
Alright, first things first. This movie has some major audio issues. I don't know if it was my theater, but there were times where I couldn't understand what certain characters were saying. The problem was mostly apparent whenever someone started talking to a speaker in a submarine. Not to mention, there are a lot of points in the movie where voices will start to heavily overlay, making it practically impossible to understand what anybody is saying. To describe it basically sounds like you're trying to I feel like this movie could definitely benefit from a home release where we can get some subtitles because, man, there were points where I was struggling to follow along with certain points. Should have gotten Lexi to turn his little volume knob, I would have fixed everything. Also, I know that I was praising the slow burn earlier, but once it got to the third act, I was starting to feel like the movie was dragging a bit. This probably comes from the second act being filled with so much to follow that I couldn't even comprehend what was going on for a bit. Again, without going into spoilers, there's so much that happens that I genuinely thought we were at the end of the movie by the time it was over. I think the second act is probably the weakest part of the movie solely because of how much happens in it. Also, this is just a nitpick, but there were a couple of shots where Mark was just slightly out of frame. I don't know if it's just me who noticed it, but Mark was definitely out of the rule of thirds for a couple of shots in this movie. Maybe it's just noticeable to me, but I feel like the average viewer won't really care. I just wanted to mention it. Now, don't forget, Iron Lung is a video game adaptation, which means we gotta look at how they translated the game to the movie. Pretty well, actually. The game takes place inside the submarine, which was really translated well to the big screen. Again, set design really cooked with this one. They even added the speaker that was always there and definitely wasn't added on as a cheat code. They also translated the gameplay really well, something that the first Five Nights at Freddy's movie couldn't even accomplish. They had to wait till the sequel to do that. Simon takes the place of the player, and he does everything that you do in the game. Side note, there's this one part in the movie where he starts driving without using the camera, and I thought that was how you were supposed to play the game. I didn't know that you were supposed to use the camera to see. Look at my gameplay. Look, you can see I did not know how to play the game. My bad. I was curious. Can you blame me? From the map to the encounters to moving the submarine, the movie translates the gameplay really well, and it especially hits hard if you played the game. The first half of this movie really shows the first experience of being inside the sub, which is probably why I like it so much. The game also has lore, and to give a quick summary of it, in 357 EIC, a cosmic event known as the Quiet Rapture happened. This event caused all stars and habitable planets in the known universe to vanish. The consolidation of iron was formed to scavenge leftover moons for any resources. A space station called Eden was the only one that had trees, which caused conflict conflict between them and the COI. The battle led to the sabotage of Filament Station's reactor, causing the area to be uninhabitable. Prisoners from Eden were taken to run recon missions in the Blood Ocean with the Iron Lung. This is where the player comes in, playing as one of the prisoners searching the ocean for points of interest. The movie takes this premise and expands on it a bit more, explaining more about what happened in Filament Station and using Simon as a way to show the guilt of being someone who was there.
Shut up, this is my beautiful origin story.
We also get a little more of what the COI's motives are for sending prisoners inside the Blood Ocean. There's also an explanation for some of the POIs that you find inside the game, which is great because I was looking through the game and even I couldn't figure out exactly what I was looking at. Overall, Iron Lung was an enjoyable watch. It ain't no talk to me, that's for sure, but it's still a pretty good first start as a directional debut. You can tell from watching this movie that there's a lot of passion put into it by both Mark and David Szymanski. How do you say that name? Szymanski, and especially everyone on the team that made this movie come out to be as good as accurate to the game as possible. I found the movie to be a good watch, and I'd definitely give it another watch just to see if there's maybe any details I miss. It's definitely not going to be for everyone though, as it's definitely more of a slower movie, and there are moments where the movie doesn't make sense sometimes. But it's a fully independent movie with a lot of passion in it, and it's great to see Mark come so far from making gaming videos to a full-fledged movie. Shit, man, I can't even write down to make my own story, so this is great to see. I wish Mark well if he ever decides to direct another movie, and I'll be seated if and when that comes out. No, if I could make a request, could you make a movie on Chair Fucking Simulator? I think there would be some great content out of that. On January 18th of this year, I lost my friend to a tragic car accident. She was an amazing friend, and she was such a kind person. I could go on and on with stories about how much of a nice person she was, but that would really be maybe 3 hours of just nothing but funny stories or stories about how great of a person she was. I remember that she gave me this Ellie from The Last of Us statue for free when it costed like $140, and it's one of the gifts that I'll always cherish, as it was one of the kindest things I've ever received. If it wasn't for her and her husband being the first people that I met in high school, forming a little group that we had, I don't think I would have ever made it through there. And it's hard knowing that she's no longer with us. And it was even harder seeing her body in the casket, knowing that she was no longer there, despite her being there physically. So I wanted to dedicate this video to her, as she was a huge Markiplier fan, and she would always talk about either Markiplier or her boyfriend, and it was that. I don't mean it in a negative way, of course. She was a great friend. But yeah, I just wanted to say this video is dedicated to her. Thank you for being an amazing friend throughout my high school years. And I hope you're doing well, wherever you are. Rest easy, orange juice.